Unitarian Universalism has seemed like an oasis to many people. Yet quite often, people come to us, they stop developing their spiritual journey once they find us. Afraid to offend the religiously shipwrecked, we often shy away from encouraging the formation of Unitarian Universalist religious identity in any formal way. Whereas the religions people have left behind might have been too demanding and oppressive, I think Unitarian Universalist congregations sometimes err on the side of not demanding enough of people. And thus, we're unimpressive sometimes in our efforts to grow and create community. Too often, we settle for new people finding a safe place with us, and we don't risk requiring further spiritual healing and development. Few congregations of ours offer an intentional path to processing a hurtful or even abusive religious past. So that instead of becoming a community of Unitarian Universalists, we too often settle for being a group that leaves each other alone and doesn't disrupt our congregational norms. We settle for groupthink, when by definition and our principles, we should be demanding thinking people. We settle for creating a place where people fit in, rather than do the more difficult work of creating real, deep, true belonging. Brene Brown says, fitting in is the greatest barrier to belonging. Let that sink in. Fitting in is the greatest barrier to belonging. She says, fitting in, I've discovered during the past decade of my research, is about assessing situations and groups of people, then often twisting yourself into a human pretzel in order to get them to let you hang out with them. Belonging is something else entirely. It's showing up and letting yourself be seen and known as you really are. And she says of herself personally, love of gourd painting and intense fear of public speaking and all. Fitting in and belonging, I believe, is also a religious paradox. I did not fit in with the Catholic community in which I was raised. I had no horrible experiences there. I was lucky enough to never encounter a guilt-tripping go-to-confession or go-to-hell priest. Never encountered queer and women-hating priests and church members in the parishes I belonged to. No parish, as far as I know, that I belong to in my life has yet surfaced a history of priest abuse in that parish, which must be miraculous at this point in history. Nothing horrible in my Catholic past, really. I'm not a recovering Catholic. I bring a lot of good things from my past with me here to Unitarian Universalism. And I was lucky, I know that, being raised Catholic that way. But my theology is different. My politics were certainly different than most of the people in those congregations. My cultural attitudes were in general different. But, and this is a real important one, I always felt I belonged. I always felt that in those parishes, pretty much everyone there would have laid down their life for me if it came to it. Really interesting, isn't that? Paradoxically, I've been a Unitarian Universalist now for 17 years, and this June a minister for 13. And I fit in exceedingly well with Unitarian Universalism. But my experience of true belonging in Unitarian Universalism has been spotty. I served a congregation for 4 years once and never belonged to that congregation, even though I was the minister. My very best sense of belonging in the Unitarian Universalist world is my very good circle of mostly Christian UU clergy friends. Strange, isn't it? Yeah. In a religion where we welcome diverse religious perspectives so everyone is welcome and can belong, we're not that great at creating true belonging sometimes. If we were, I think we would have many more vibrant, active, and growing congregations. Our faith tradition has a number of tools for creating belonging, and we went extensively into one of them this morning, covenant. We don't ask that you believe like we believe. We ask that you enter into relationship as we think it is healthy and right to do so. Yet, because creating and maintaining covenant is about true belonging, I think we worry that if we actually took it seriously, we would eventually have to hold each other accountable, get into the warts and imperfections and not so greatness of each other. And we have trouble doing this because we fear those we might need to hold accountable or call to covenant will take it as punishment or chastising or being called to the principal's office, being told they don't fit in. And thus, maybe we don't really develop belonging as strongly as we might. It's a vicious cycle. A well-known axiom among congregational consultants is that a church without a mission defaults to the mission of gathering together of a like-minded group of people. In other words, without a mission, we default to fitting in. But with a mission, we require belonging to that mission. Notice how mission was peppered throughout that ceremony this morning? And I think we are fortunate here because we do have an articulated mission. We have yet another tool to help us create real and deep belonging. And that's been the work that you all have done. It's good work. It needs to be celebrated more, I think, because mission creates belonging. Another tool we have that creates belonging is our humanistic approach to religion. This is not humanism, right? It is humanistic. Being humanistic means to put the concerns and quality of life of human beings in the here and now first and foremost. And Unitarian Universalism in all its guises, Christian you use, pagan you use, humanist you use, Buddhist you use, all of us take on this humanistic approach to religion that I believe is outlined really well in the 5 Smooth Stones, which is why I emphasize it so much in my own ministry. You know, being Unitarian Universalist is not about freedom from religion. It's about being free for religious practice that is healthy and full of belonging. I believe you owe it to yourself as a Unitarian Universalist to be very serious about and live by our 7 principles and 5 smooth stones. And you know what? You owe it to the rest of us too. Because, well, what do we ask of each other? What's it mean to be a member of a congregation? And we need to think about this because if we ask little, we get little. And if we ask much, we will get much. A low-demand membership doesn't ask much of you, turns into creating a culture where people loosely come in and loosely drift out. And things remain kind of constant over the years in terms of numbers. Notice that pattern anywhere? When we did our new member class, I noticed starkly that the attendance we had on that Sunday a few weeks back was pretty much the same exact attendance as the first meeting of this society in 1980. We've been here 40 years and we haven't grown at all. I wonder, really, if it's because we ask too little of each other. Don't get on my back about religious stuff. Let me go my own way. I'll show up and take part as I want. Don't bug me. I wonder, even though that's not what's in our bylaws, I wonder if that's how we treat our own membership here and the membership of others. I wonder what it might be like if we asked more of each other. If we went into trying to create a deep belonging so real that once people experienced it, they would never want to leave. Groupthink is usually applied to people we don't like, everyone who thinks together without thinking. People such as religious fundamentalists, or political conservatives. People who we say can't think for themselves and disparage open-mindedness. And yet Unitarian Universalists are very much group thinkers too. We say we want to grow our congregations, but we can't change the order of service. We want to grow our congregations, but God forbid we can't worship in an actual church building. We want to grow this church, but don't be too Christian-y. We want to grow our church, but don't you dare try all that new fundraising stuff. Well, because that's not the way we've always done it, which is the biggest groupthink slogan there is, my friends. Groupthink. We might offend someone and someone might leave. Today, our conversation with each other will be about dismantling groupthink and force us to really think and feel and talk to each other very openly and very honestly about the future of this congregation. The future that our new members are counting on us to provide. Because I'm sure they didn't come here today wanting to join something that was just going to coast along and then drift away. Every time this morning, this afternoon, as we're talking, and you find yourself falling into groupthink, when you find yourself thinking, oh no, we're not doing that, I want you to ask yourself, well, has the way we've been doing things filled this building with people on Sunday? Has the way we've been doing things filled our bank account to bursting? Has the way we've been doing things made our worship time here each week a can't miss, this is the place to be in town event of that weekend? Has the way we've been doing things made such a huge change in the culture of the greater Woodbury community they wouldn't know what to do without us? And if your answer to those is no, then the way we've been doing things, my friends, isn't working that well. We can do so much better. We need to find the place in us to get rid of groupthink and hold ourselves to be those thinking people we proclaim in our principles and our sources. We must remember that we cannot dismiss trying new things and new approaches and perhaps asking more of our members than we currently do. Because groupthink doesn't provide beloved, intense community and belonging, but a group of thinking and feeling people almost always will. I'm going to invite you to sit with that for a minute. Be here, be present to yourself, to this space, a place we make holy just by being here together. Just sit in the silence for a few seconds and take in your community, your new members, and yourself, and your heart.
This has been a presentation of
MUUS,
the Mattituck Unitarian Universalist Society,
honoring the earth and all that is.
Learn more at MUUSCT.org.
Or come by any Sunday. Or come by any Sunday.